IVM.
Welcome to Pyaar Actually Podcast, an anthology of stories which make you smile, cry, tug your heart, and show you how love manifests itself through moments like no other. Stories of people whose relationships rose through the test of time and shone like a natural diamond. I'm your host Akshay Oberoi और मैं Natural Diamond Council के साथ ला रहा हूँ ऐसी कुछ कहानियाँ that have touched my heart and given me hope and reason to smile. Extraordinary stories filled with unforgettable moments. We've always heard about love at first sight. But how do we figure that it's not just mere infatuation? How does one build a connection that stands the test of time? Manav and my childhood friend Shreya open up about the little things that matter in today's story, Gesture of Love. It was an arranged marriage, fresh out of university. Their parents had set them up with the intention of a well-orchestrated, happily ever after. To get to know each other better, at the initial meet and greet, they decided to meet up for a coffee. As Manav walked into their date, a little late, he found her sitting next to the window in a quaint coffee shop, poring over a book. He liked how peaceful she looked, lost in her book, oblivious to everything, including him, till he sat down, that is. By the end of the evening, her smiles proved that she liked him too. And 3 months later, they were married. So here he was, sharing his life with Shreya, a writer. While he couldn't remember the last time he had picked up a book, he would often see her in front of her laptop, with a pair of glasses perched on her nose, deep in thought. One day he asked her to tell him about a novel she was reading. He saw her eyes light up like some glorious natural diamonds. She was a woman of few words, but her sparkling eyes spoke like they had a language of their own. And so it went. With time, they settled into each other like seasons. They complemented each other easily, despite the stark contrasts. She liked horror films, while he preferred comedies. She raved about badminton and tennis. He enjoyed his evening walks. And she loved her bicycle. They were different, but they fit like puzzle pieces. Once he took her to his favorite restaurant. "Do you like the food?" he asked. Her eyes were watery and her face was red. Are you okay?" he asked, concerned. Pani, I need pani." He realized she couldn't eat spicy food. He, on the other hand, was obsessed with it. With time, he realized she was a big fan of sweets, something he really didn't enjoy much. They were from two different worlds, he realized, and that's what made them so close. The only thing that kept them away was his work timings. He had just started working a high-profile job in a public relations firm in Mumbai, and it just kept him busy. More so after hours. A large part of his job involved networking events that didn't even start until late at night. He didn't mind, but he was keenly aware of the fact that time at events meant time away from Shreya. They'd been married for only 3 months, and because of his busy schedule, it was beginning to put a strain on their relationship. On most days, by the time he got home, she was already asleep. He had asked her a couple of times before to join him, but she had always seemed reticent. He remembered a conversation they had had when he proposed weekly game nights with his friends. "You know, I'm not very good with large groups of people. I'm a one-to-one person. Hamesha se hi," she had said, trying to sound casual. But she had insisted that they go ahead with the plan. He had watched her that night, escaping into the kitchen to get more snacks every chance she got. He realized that Shreya was a wonderfully bright writer who took her time to open up to people. Unsurprisingly, one of his friends had called him the next day. with nothing but praises for Shreya. He had apparently gotten into a conversation with her about his son, who had just started school and was struggling a bit. She had responded with genuine empathy and even recommended a couple websites for him to check out. A month later, Shreya called him up at work, screaming with excitement. Her article was getting recognized by the country's finest literary magazine. He could hear her voice brimming with excitement as she told him about how great it felt to be seen and recognized. He couldn't be prouder of her. On his way home that evening, he decided to surprise her with a present that he'd been thinking about giving her for a while, and now he had that perfect reason. When he saw the first necklace at the jewelry store, he wasn't impressed, but he kept looking. He knew that this was special and meant something to him, so he didn't mind putting in the effort. After what seemed like an eternity, a diamond necklace caught his eye. It was unlike anything he had seen before. "It's one of a kind, sir," said the salesman, and Manav knew this gorgeous natural diamond necklace was exactly what he was looking for. It was as if he found his symbol of love. There was more to the natural diamond piece than Manav buying his wife a pretty trinket. You see, Shreya loves diamonds. She loved diamonds because for her, they weren't just gems. They were a sign of peace, a source of inspiration, a sign of resilience. She had once mentioned to him that if there was anything that could turn her frown into a smile, it was natural diamond jewelry. On the day of the function, Manav went home early from work. He found Shreya sitting in front of the mirror getting dressed. She was wearing a beautiful green sari that brought out the dark brown of her eyes. She looked stunning. But her eyes didn't shine like they normally did. They called me today in the morning and asked me how long my speech would be. मुझे पता नहीं था that I would have to even give one. I mean, that too in front of all those people. What if I can't do it, Manav? Her voice shaking a little. This is your day, Shreya. Just go out there and know that this is your time. If nothing else, I'll be there. Just look at me. Every time you feel unsure, just look at me. I'll be there, smiling and proud of the person you are. With that, he took out the dazzling natural diamond necklace he had been holding on to and slipped it around her neck, whispering, "I love you." She looked at it in awe, absolutely speechless. She hugged Manav as she tried to hold back tears, overwhelmed by her thoughtful husband and how safe he made her feel. This is your reminder that no matter what, I'll always be there, looking at you, and all you need to do is look back at me. That night, Manav watched as Shreya grew more and more anxious as the time for her speech inched forward. Eventually, when her name was called out, she walked up to the podium as thunderous applause rained all around her. He watched as she took a deep breath and started to speak. But one word in, and she had lost her voice. Manav knew she needed him. Immediately, he sat up straight, practically willing her to look at him, giving her the luxury of time. Finally, Shreya's darting eyes found Manav, and suddenly, time stopped. It was a moment like no other. She touched the precious diamond necklace. A reminder. He pointed at his eyes and blinked thrice and smiled. "I love you." It took her a second, but she understood what he was doing. He was speaking her language, and that's exactly what she needed. She blinked thrice back at him and breathed and began again. Her voice echoed in the hall, crystal clear and confident. She spoke like she was speaking to him, finding strength in his belief in her. It had been more than 16 years since that party, and they'd come a long way from being young newlyweds who were finding their feet in the world. They had grown as a couple, learning from each other every day. But even now, sometimes, if they were in a crowded place, or if they just had a fight, or weren't talking to each other, they would look at each other, blink thrice, and know that no matter what, they were loved. It was the most precious feeling in the world. What can we say? Opposites do attract, but Manav and Shreya's story is like two diamond engagement rings, always together, but in different hands. When you find the right connection, moments like no other pave their way to your happily ever after. Perhaps you know this feeling too. What's the unique symbol or gesture or ritual between your partner and you? Tell me. Thanks for tuning in to Pyaar Actually, the podcast where we celebrate love stories that make you smile. See you all next week with another tale of love, only on Pyaar Actually. Until then, this is Akshay Oberoi signing off. For more inspiration, insight, and information on natural diamonds, log on to www.naturaldiamonds.com. Catch new episodes of Pyaar Actually Podcast on the IBM Podcasts app, website, or wherever else you get your podcasts from.